All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Catching Up with Jacob, and we're going to catch up with him tonight. Jacob Prasch, how are you?
Blessings from Great Britain. I'm well in Jesus. The world is going to hell in a handbasket, but we're going to heaven on a cloud.
Amen. Hey, I like that better than the handbasket. So, swing low, sweet chariot, come to carry me home. God bless you, Jacob. And from Israel, on a different set of, I guess you're not on your computer right now, Elon. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Yes, I've had problems with the Zoom client on my computer, so it's not connecting. So I'm on the mobile phone, and the things have gone a bit sideways tonight.
Yes, I noticed.
Everybody else has gone sideways. I'm the right way up.
Wow.
Yeah, literally. Can you adjust your phone in any way, Elon?
Well, it's on a tripod at the moment, but the trouble is, when I try to turn the phone, the tripod mount to one side, it falls. The whole thing. It's essentially a mini tripod, and it just falls over. Then, so
you got it.
If I do this,
I totally understand. If you can stand on your head, it might just offset it, but it might be a headache afterwards.
I'll work on it during the thing. Maybe there's a better solution than to what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah. You could always just turn off your camera and just do audio if you wanted to do that. That would be
great that's too. Another thing. Yes, if it's that might be a bad idea. Just don't.
And we can put your cat. We can put your cat as the image right there, and then you'll be all right.
Yeah, well, the cat will probably come in anyway. She likes to come in. And just hold on. Let me see. How do I do that now?
Welcome, Elon. Let's go to Australia.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Oh, there's a button I can press to make it turn around. Yes. I put the world to rights already. And we haven't even started
right side
yet.
Up. All right, Elon. Thank you so much for doing that for us. Thank you. And Davey from Australia, good morning.
Hey, morning, and good to be with you all again. Hard to believe a week's gone by, though.
You blinked and we're back.
Yep.
That's how it works. And from Southern California, beautiful Southern California, Jay, how are you this morning?
Doing very well, comrade. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
And from communist California.
Well,
Yeah.
It's all heading that way. It's all heading that way. Well, welcome, Jay. And we want to welcome everyone who's watching on different platforms, from X to Rumble to our own memorialtv.org, memorial.tv, and the many other platforms, as well as Telegram and Facebook. And did I miss one? I think we said X. Yeah, we got X too. So there's plenty of choices, good podcasts, good videos. Get a hold of not only Memorial Chapel, but Memorial TV channels, and many good stuff to come. Not only prophecy videos. Jacob is in the UK at the moment, and teaching and preaching and heading to Israel. So much prayer for that. And I don't think there's any announcements. Jacob, are you speaking this weekend?
I'm speaking this Sunday, 10 a.m. at Bethel Christian Fellowship and Bramley Village Hall on the outskirts of Guildford in Surrey, England. Details are on the Memorial website on the itinerary page.
Praise God. Praise God. That's awesome. Jay, David, you guys got anything before we get started? Nope. Okay. I think we're good. Jacob Prasch, let's get right down to it. All eyes are on SpaceX IPO. All eyes are on the economy and oil prices. Europe is raising interest rates as the inflation stokes more fear. But we're here to talk about what's going on with the war, with Israel, with the U.S., with Iran. Trump was about to hit Carg Island, take over it, hit him really hard, back off at the last minute, says he got a deal ready to go. Might be this weekend in Islamabad or Europe, whichever they sign it. Jacob, your thoughts originally. We don't know. It's like a yo-yo. It's up and it's down. It's like the stock market. It's all based on what Trump says. We're going to hit them, pull back. Now we got a deal. Are you holding your breath, or is it just me?
I'm not holding my breath. I don't trust anything the Iranians say. They'll be slow to implement anything they can be slow to implement. They're just trying to buy time and drag this thing out. I do think Mr. Trump was right to give them the ultimatum. We're going to take Carg Island. That's obviously what forced the hand which is what we've been saying all along. I understand the reluctance of the United States to put boots on the ground, but I wouldn't consider Kog Island to putting boots on the ground in mainland Iran. I think with sufficient air support. If the amphibious force was to grab it, Marines, I don't think that they would be highly vulnerable to any kind of attack from the mainland. That's just my personal view, but of course, I'm not an expert. But at least he said he's going to go for Kog Island, which is what should have been done all along. But I do not trust Iran, no. I do not think there should be an unfreezing of any Iranian assets. That is what Biden did. That's what Obama did. I think those assets should be confiscated and applied to the cost of the war. It should go to the U.S. Treasury to help pay for the war. I don't think Iran should get a penny of it. Not a penny of it.
That's right.
As long as this present regime is in power. And I don't think that the blockade should be lifted until there's a guarantee of full compliance. But
let me go over the five. Yeah, the 5 points to the deal. And you tell me if you want to address any of them specifically in more detail. The nuclear material will be destroyed and removed. Nuclear program will be dismantled. None of the money released until they perform due diligence. Strait of Hormuz will be open. No Iran funding of terrorist groups. Which one do you want to drilled into, Jacob?
I don't think that any frozen funds should be returned to Iran, but I can live with the rest of it. But notice there's been an abandonment of the call to depose the regime. Now, Mr.
Correct.
Trump is saying that in part is happening because of allies, and one of the ones that were named were Kurds, who did not give the weapons to the Iranian people that were being funneled through them to the Iranian opposition to fight the regime. So Mr. Trump is exonerating himself from responsibility for the regime not being attacked by its own people because the weapons were not properly funneled to who they were meant to get by people supposedly aligned with us. That is what he's saying. This regime is surviving. What I think most people are missing, and including many Christians, is Daniel 10. We're up against a principality, a demonic power. It is not just a political force or a religious force. I think probably, conservatively, at least two-thirds of the Iranian people don't like the regime. But you're not dealing. You're not. That's conservatively. I think it's more than that. But conservatively, we can safely say it's at least 2 out of 3 Iranians don't want this regime. And the ones who do would not be strong enough to hold it if there was not a demonic power on back of it. I'm convinced we're up against something that the prophet Daniel saw. It is very demonic in nature. This will bring oil prices down very rapidly, however. It will bring oil prices down very rapidly. Mr. Trump needs to get this over with. Now, I would have done what he's done now with Kog Island. I would have played that card weeks ago. I would have played that card over a month ago, if not 2 months ago. He's slow in coming. As Winston Churchill said, our American cousins, we can always be sure will do the right thing after they've exhausted every other possible alternative.
So true. I'm going to go to Elon. Elon, Netanyahu says he's not party to the deal. He's not party to Iran, and he's not party to the deal, but he is okay with the restrictions on Iran. So it's a high probability of approval. Your thoughts on what the latest is in Israel politics in regards to this deal? Yay, nay, deal, no deal? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral?
Well, I used to think for a second. I don't think. Well, what are the comments I've been seeing online? They're not exactly favourable towards this deal. There seems to be also, from what I've been seeing, there's a concern that there's a growing rift between. I think we mentioned this perhaps before that the show started. The growing rift between Netanyahu and President Trump over this, so So it's hard to to know exactly what's going on because there's different voices coming out on this, and but because also there were certain restrictions trying to be placed upon us in our dealings with the Hezbollah. So I don't think the coverage over here is entirely favourable. Because the job with Iran has to be finished. We cannot leave that regime in power. End of story.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I'm going to bring up when we talk about J.D. Vance. What is exactly the U.S. changed the policy? Originally came in with a different strategy and a different policy, and we come out on the other side with a whole new set of ball games. Jay, back to you. I'm going to ask you your thoughts on, from the American side, whether this deal it's even good ultimately by leaving this regime in place.
I know I'm going to get some flack for saying this, but when I think of the deal that Trump is touting or talking about, I can't help but hear it's the same old song, but with a different meaning. Now that you are gone, aren't we doing exactly what Obama made a deal with the regime? Why is it that this is worse than a cat? This regime, it doesn't have just 9 lives. It has like 27 lives. No matter what we do to it, it just springs back up. That's why I agree with Jacob. There is something supernaturally demonic about this totalitarian religious regime.
Yeah.
You would imagine that the people of Iran would have rose up and deposed them, but everything
which I
seems to
thought
work
that's what was going to happen, right? We thought that's what originally was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I thought that a Charlie Wilson's war was coming for the people of Iran through the Kurds.
I like that.
Never happened. Never materialized. So yeah, he's definitely distancing himself from probably some failed let's call them covert actions. I mean Iran Contra actions.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question of Elon, please?
Yeah.
Elon, when Mr. Trump tried to back the Israelis off of attacking Beirut, they attacked Beirut anyway. Do you think it's possible that this is simply holding his cards close to his chest, that he and Netanyahu have feigned this to create disinformation, that there is a distancing from Israel and America, a mutual distancing that is military disinformation, and that it is also there to undermine the anti-Zionist forces in the Democratic Party in America that are saying Trump is just doing Israel's bidding, not America's, which is what some people, quite a lot of people are saying. Do you think it could be part of a strategy that he's putting out disinformation for those 2 reasons on purpose?
I've seen some commentators say words to that effect, actually, and that Trump and Netanyahu are playing about 10 moves ahead. So
yes.
It's certainly possible because a lot of warfare actually involves deceiving the enemy. So I would that wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know if that's the majority. Not everybody thinks that way, though, but it's certainly a possibility.
Yes, I hope it's the case.
Yes, it would be good if it was, and and like you said, I hope it's the case too.
I'm going to go back to Jay. Jay, we had some scrimmages. You were talking about the Kurds, and Jacob was mentioning the Kurds. The IRGC and the Kurdish militia are going at it right now in Western Iran. At the same time, there's a deal going on, or possibly a deal going on. Does that affect it, you think?
Um, you know, because of the US's closeness to Turkey, I would think that in their minds they would love to have like a Kurdistan carved out. And now that they have the weapons, that could be the reason why they didn't give up the arms that they were supposed to the people of Iran,
Right.
because they're thinking the long game while the West is thinking the short game. The problem, however, is that Erdogan will never let that happen because it would destabilize his country. So that's the U.S. would also take that hard line, I think.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Erdogan because he's been making the rounds for whatever reason. Jacob, Al Arabiya, which I don't trust as far as we can throw them, it's reporting, and I want to get your thoughts on this, that it includes a 60-day ceasefire so they can negotiate a larger deal. So it's like phase one, then phase two, and eventually phase three. This is phase one, where they would just on principle agree on some things, including a ceasefire. Then the Strait of Hormuz would be open, but eventually you'll get to the sanctions and you get to negotiations regarding the nuclear weapons. Is Trump doing an Obama 2.0, perhaps, maybe with a little more teeth?
That is
but
one
not
possibility. The other possibility is he's doing what he needs to do pre-election in order to get the oil prices down and to get the thing smoothed over, and also wanting to get this out of the way so he can concentrate on Cuba. That is one possibility. He has his own ace up his sleeve in dealing with the Iranians. Once the election is over, he can go back to business as usual if they don't comply with what they've agreed to. So, again, we don't know. Dan Bongino made a statement. He said, what you see in the news does not tell what is really going on beyond a limited point. You've got to trust. Yeah, you've got to trust the person you voted for as much as you can. There's a lot more going on that you just don't see. And we just don't see. We don't know what's going on. In any war situation, it's been said in a war, the first casualty of war is truth.
100%. There's a fog of war. There's a fog of war.
So
Jacob,
we can
stay with you.
comment on what we can see, but we don't see the full picture. This is the problem.
I don't think anybody does. Let me ask you this, since you were referring to concentrating on certain areas, and this exactly pivots to the next point. Is the U.S. prepared to leave the Middle East as we know it? Obviously, they may have some play in it later, of course, as a world power. But, recent events with the helicopter being shut down, with the retaliation, the self-defense has happened this week, with the U.S. response, with the way Trump has been behaving toward a peace deal, and the way he's actually implementing new regional partners, like in Iraq, like in Syria, and bringing in Turkey to stabilize the Middle East, along with the Abraham Accords, along with the Cyrus Accords, and the Gulf states, and stabilizing that. Is the U.S. ready to pivot, as you said, concentrating on Cuba, concentrating on China, concentrating on perhaps even Russia?
I can certainly envision a reduced naval and air force presence. I can envision a reduced presence from the current levels, which are basically warfare levels. But I cannot envision any kind of a full withdrawal of naval and air force assets from the region. No.
The prime minister, the new prime minister of Iraq, is really interesting. Ali al-Zadi.
Yes.
He is a prime minister. He is a banker. He is a strategist. He is a financier. He is very pro the U.S., very seemingly pro-Israel, pragmatic, anti-militia, pro-investments. Of course, because of Islam, you can't really trust anything he says. However, he is coming to the U.S. to discuss more investments with the U.S., as well as al-Shura, Ahmad al-Shura, the former ISIS, now president of Syria, which, by the way, I don't trust, is coming to the U.S. as well to discuss these things.
Yes.
Are new partners being established, Jacob, besides the Gulf states, new partners coming online?
I talked about this on my caveat that I did on RTN, on Word for the Weekend, concerning the Abraham Accords. That seems like Mr. Trump's overall big goal before he leaves office is to do something on the magnitude of Camp David to leave himself a legacy. Carter was a failed president, but he at least had, unlike Bush, unlike Obama, although he's a failed president, he at least had a legacy because of Camp David. I think in their final 2 years of office, all presidents think about their legacy. They don't want to be like Bush or like Obama and leave office without one. And I think that is his ambition, is to be the person who brings a peace to the Middle East. Arguably, Clinton could say he did that with the Anglo-Irish agreement in Northern Ireland, with the Good Friday Agreement. That he at least had a legacy as a peacemaker. Well, Mr. Trump wants what Carter had, what Clinton to a degree had. He wants that. And I think that is what he's aiming for. He wants a legacy. Every president wants a legacy. They don't want to end their tenure as president the way Bush did, or the way Carter did, or the way Obama did.
Yeah, and that's more important to Trump probably than anything else, and we have to underline that. That's probably more important to Trump than anything else.
His ego with it. Call it what you will.
Yeah, Elon, real quick, can Israel afford something like this, either a false or failed agreement? Can they continue to afford all these mishaps and miscalculations? And you still have Hezbollah, you still have Hamas. I don't know if those regional powers will be able to rein them in if Iran doesn't have a regime change, just an agreement. What do you think?
No, we can't afford that. I mean, Iran is the major funder of all of these groups like the Hezbollah, the Hamas. They're just proxies of Iran. As long as this regime stays in power, we can't leave it like that. It's just a recipe for ongoing conflict, really. So something has to be done about that regime. Period. We cannot leave it the way they are. We cannot allow them to continue. So one way or another, that regime has to go.
Yeah. In terms of, I'm going to ask you more of a theological question. You know how God hardened Pharaoh's heart after he hardened his own heart. Do you believe the RGC is like that? God has given him a chance to, stop attacking Israel, let things go, and now is going to destroy them because of the hardness of their own heart. God's going to harden their hearts, and it's going to lead to this major, major catastrophe for the RGC. I'm not talking about the people, but the RGC, the leaders, as well as parliament leaders, and anyone who we think it's actually governing Iran.
So you're asking me or Yaakov there, Marco?
Oh, no. You. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't say Jacob, just you.
Well, I do believe that the IRGC is being given over to the governing body has been definitely given over to judgment. I mean, most of them have been wiped out. I mean, it's a what's the word? You don't get a long tenure of employment if you work for the IRGC, because sooner or later, something will hit you. It's like the Hezbollah, nobody in their right mind would want to be in the leadership there, because the chances are that you might last a week before some drone hits you or something like that, So to some degree, yes, I would agree with your assessment, and I don't think they're going to repent, period. I mean, that's not the way they are. As a body, they're dead set on the destruction of Israel and the annihilation of Jews as a people. So I think that's just going to carry on from that body. There may be possibly some individuals within it who may repent. We don't know, but as a body, as a whole, I think it's just ripe for judgment.
Jacob, I want to talk about Erdogan real quick. Like sharks to blood, they smell blood. This Turkish dictator is now, because he's being brought into an inner circle of stability with Iran, or sorry, with Iraq in Syria. He's gone under the attack. He says he wants to, of course, control the Middle East. He wants to have more say in Jerusalem, has more say in Israel. He is threatening attacks against Israel once again. Is he emboldened by the fact that he's considered some kind of player now?
He is. Don't forget, he is like the Putin of the Muslim world. Putin wants to revive, to the degree possible, the Soviet Empire, which was basically an attempt to use Marxism to revive the old Russian Empire of the Tsars. He's a Russian nationalist. That's Putin. Well, you got the same situation with Erdogan in Turkey. He wants to see the Ottoman Empire that collapsed it in defeat after World War I, revived it in some way. Now, again, he's lifting himself up as a champion of the Arabs. Don't forget, in the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Turks subjugated the Arabs. They treated them as serfs. They made them an underclass. You can read the book Lawrence of Arabia and see the way that the Turks look down upon the Arabs. Yet he hypocritically engages in a revisionism, trying to lift himself up as some kind of a Suleiman the Magnificent's reincarnation. You see this in the Middle East a lot. You have a situation where Saddam Hussein wanted to be a Nebuchadnezzar figure, where that's what he wanted to be. Well, you've got the same situation with Erdogan. He wants to be a Suleiman the Magnificent figure. He's already tried to extend his tentacles south of the Suez Canal, south of the Red Sea, into Somalia, which is why the Israelis gave diplomatic recognition to Somaliland as to offset his influence in the Horn of Africa. You see what he's essentially done in Syria and what he's trying to do to eradicate as much of Kurdish independence movements and nationalism as possible. He wants to be a Suleiman the Magnificent. That is his game, but it's completely hypocritical. Again, at one time, the Turks attacked and destroyed Mecca. They actually attacked and destroyed the Kaaba. But of course, you're supposed to forget that. That doesn't fit his present narrative.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's troubling to see him as a player in these in these not creations with Iran, but in the future of the Middle East, with his influence over Syria, with this emphasis on the dominant force in the Middle East. And I suppose the Trump administration sees him as an ally against Iran more than just an enemy of Israel. So maybe that's where it's at. Jacob, I'm going to stay with you because I want to ask you this question. Will Israel stand alone? And what I mean by that is we often thought the U.S. would stand with Israel, and there's many people that would give verses and prophecies and things like that about the eagle coming in with eagle's wings and rescuing Israel or Daniel 11, the ships that come from the West to standing against the Antichrist. And a lot of them think it's the U.S. or some kind of European allies to come and rescue Israel. But overall, the Bible makes it clear, I believe. I want to get your take on it. All nations round about, and all nations will come against Israel. That's what I believe the Bible says, but I want to get your thoughts on it because J.D. Vance's new interview is the fact that he says, and it's on Fox and it's also on another station that he recorded, that sometimes we don't agree and we have to stay with our main focus is America's interest, not Israel's interest. And if they don't like it, that's too bad, paraphrasing what he said, because we need to take care of our own. It echoes many of the things that we hear today from the new alternative, I guess you could call it, that are increasingly anti-Semitic. So your thoughts on it?
Ultimately, Zechariah 12 gives the indication that Israel will in some way stand alone and have no way out except the return of the second coming of the Messiah and looking upon him who was pierced and mourned as one mourns for an only son. We know prophetically it'll come to that. But let's look at it in terms of our own context. The United States is a superpower now. Europe is of secondary importance in Middle East politics. It's not a superpower. The EU is in many respects a failing enterprise. The euro is a failing currency, at least not a successful one. It's the United States still remains the superpower. Going back in history to Harry Truman. Now, Roosevelt was no friend of the Jews and no friend of Zionism, but Harry Truman did go with Zionism. Then, of course, both JFK and Lyndon Johnson were supportive of Zionism. Traditionally, the Democratic Party, having a lot of Democratic members in New York and California particularly, as well as other places, Chicago, Philadelphia, and so on, were a party that was very pro-Zionist, as were the Republicans. For all of his faults, Nixon was still, although he was an anti-Semite, he was still pro-Zionist for political reasons during the Cold War. Okay, although he was personally an anti-Semite. That is beginning to change. 80% of the Democratic Party, 80% is anti-Zionist. And you've got horrible people who don't care about America or Israel. And they're Jewish, people like Blumenthal and Schumer, who go along with this Nazi platinum from Maine, Wasserman Schultz, these horrible people, and these Soros-funded judicial gangsters. You can't trust these people anymore. That's a realization that Alan Dershowitz was forced to come to. It's not the same Democratic Party. Okay, the Democratic Party that was traditionally a friend of Israel no longer exists. 80% of the Democratic Party is now anti-Israel, and a big turning point was Barack Obama. A major turning point was Barack Obama. Then you see something else happen. Now, with Marjorie Taylor Greene, with Massey, with Tucker Carlson, with Candace Owen, you see it in the Republican Party. You see an anti-Zionism now coming up in the Republican Party. So what overtook the Democratic Party is now making some gains, at least, in the Republican Party. Now, Mr. Trump has fought them off. He's gotten rid of Massey and so forth. But it's still a force to be reckoned with. At the same time, you see this happening among evangelicals. The traditional evangelical support of Israel is to a degree being eroded by false teachers, like Lockwood and others, and Andrews, claiming to be evangelical preachers, but who deny the prophetic purposes of God for Israel and the Jews, and they're anti-Zionist. Stephen Sizer in Great Britain, another one. So you see the erosion of support for Israel in the Democratic Party. You see it in the Republican Party. You see it among evangelical Christians. You see it in Great Britain, certainly in the Labour Party. There was a lot of sympathy to Israel in the Labour Party in Great Britain in the 1950s and 60s. That is all gone, just about all gone. It is all gone. Australia, the same. Israel is losing friends. And yes, it is in harmony with what the book of Zechariah tells us is going to happen. The one friend they're going to have is true believers. True believers. I said 25, 30 years ago that one of the issues that's going to identify the faithful church against the apostate church is going to be the prophetic purposes of God for Israel and the Jews. The harlot church, including backslidden evangelicism, will reject God's purposes for Israel. Faithful believers will continue to recognize God's purpose. It's going to be a dividing issue in the church. It's going to be a dividing issue in the political parties, as it already is.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about J.D. Vance. Do you think he represents that marginal group that it's increasingly in the right, that it used to be on the fringe, now it's more mainstream because of the podcasters and buying into the algorithm, and I believe some of them are being paid. I have no doubt about that. He represents that America isolationist, America first, which means America only. versus maybe like a Marco Rubio who wants to run for president in 2028, who represents more of the traditional allies. He claims to be a Christian. He says Israel's an important ally. Israel, he doesn't call the West Bank, calls it Judea and Samaria. So is there a split already?
There already is a forming split. I would draw a distinction spiritually and theologically between somebody who was born into Catholicism, Roman Catholicism, the way that Marco Rubio was, and someone who converts to it the way Vance did. Vance basically lost all of his faith. He's married to a Hindu. He's a guy that I do not think has any sense of real Christian conviction in any biblical sense. Additionally, I think he's more of a Pence than he is a conservative. I think he is not quite a rhino, but he's not a MAGA Republican or a real conservative. I think he is a sanitized rhino. I look upon Vance as a sanitized rhino. Even though he said many true things concerning Europe, I look upon him as a sanitized rhino, the way Pence was.
Yeah, and no doubt it's shifting, isn't it? Because you have this form of coalition within the we often thought the left was going to be the one, and of course the left is being the one, but eventually if this is going to go that way, you're going to have a strong push toward an isolationist idea, perhaps not an anti-Israel right away, but an isolationist idea. And of course, prophecies like Zechariah, you mentioned, Jacob, Joel chapter 3, or even Isaiah, where God says that I alone.
If Vance was to be elected president, if Vance was to be elected president, I would expect he would do what Obama did, not come out against Israel until after he gets in office. Then he won't show his true colors until he gets in office. I don't trust Mr. Vance, even though he said things that I respect about Europe and Britain. I absolutely applauded. He even stood up to the Pope. There were things about him that I applauded.
Yeah,
but I do not trust the guy. I have more faith in former Senator Marco Rubio. Definitely, Secretary of State Rubio.
Jacob, I wanted to ask you about Daniel 11, verse 30. The ships of Kittim will come against the Antichrist. Now, historically, those were the Roman fleets who came against Antiochus Epiphanes and his campaign.
It had a historical fulfillment around the time of the Battle of Actium out of Cyprus, yes.
Correct. Now, in your opinion, the ships of Kittim will be some kind of Western power, some kind of, a lot of people think that's America coming on behalf of Israel. What are your thoughts on it?
Obviously, it represents European power coming into the Middle East, Western power coming into the Middle East, if it's recapitulated. But we have to bear in mind, during the time of Antony, Cleopatra, and Julius Caesar, and so forth, it had a historical fulfillment. So we'd have to have a firm understanding of how it was fulfilled already historically in order to get any kind of an accuracy in our understanding of what it may mean prophetically for the future.
Correct. Yeah. And if it was already fulfilled once and we have a shadow and, can it happen again? Could it happen again? And who would that be? Like I said, historically, were the Romans, is that Europe? Is that a Western power necessarily?
Well, you had a fragmentation in Europe. When Alexander the Great died, you had a fragmentation. And what you had were the Ptolemies, who were in southern Israel and Egypt, and you had the Seleucids, who were in what is today Lebanon, Syria, and Galilee. There was this kind of a conflict, a fragmentation of the European powers that extended into the Middle East. Well, you're seeing that now, a fragmentation of the European powers. Eastern Europe is going one way, is more anti-Islamic. Western Europe is becoming more pro-Islamic. Certainly Spain and even Germany and France. So you are seeing a fragmentation in Europe exactly as took place in Daniel's prophecies following the death of Alexander.
Jacob, what would be your take on Christians today? There are two types of Christians that I've met, and maybe three, but for the most part, it's either they love Trump and he can't do no wrong, or they hate Trump and he's an antichrist. And if you say anything different, they'll hate you too. That's how drastic, polarizing it's been. But in reality, I think and this is, I want to get your take on it. He's more concerned about other things that I think what Christians are polarized to, like the Abraham Accords, his own legacy, stabilizing the Middle East. What's your take on Trump's legacy? And of course, he's so polarizing among Christians. I'm sure you can't even say anything about Trump because you'll get hate from both sides if you say something different.
Look, personally, I voted for him the first 2 times he ran. The last time I could not vote for him because he had the homosexual gala at Mar-a-Lago. I just couldn't do it. I have to maintain the standard. But I would rather have him than Harris, obviously. And I agree with most of what he does and most of what he says. I agree with most of it. But by no means do I agree with all of it. By no means do I necessarily agree with all of it. And I point people to what we did 2 weeks ago on RTN, on Word for the Weekend, the problem and the almost the ominous atmosphere that surrounds the Abraham Accords. I'd urge people to listen to that if they have not listened to that. The Abraham Accords do frighten me, and I'm very troubled about Whitaker, and I'm troubled about Mr. Kirshner. Those are the issues.
Yeah, Witkoff.
But again, you were right, and we said it. Mr. Obama left office with no legacy. He didn't leave the world a better place. Okay, he drew a line in the sand and didn't follow through when Assad used the chemical weapons against his own people. He emboldened Putin and he emboldened China to take aggressive steps in the South China Sea and Putin to invade Crimea. He was a weak president. He did not leave the world a better place. Black Americans were left considerably worse off economically after they had their first so-called black president. Barack Obama left office with no legacy. Joe Biden left office with no legacy. George Bush left office with no legacy. Mr. Trump wants to leave office with a legacy. He has quite an ego, and that is driving him. And again, it has to do with the Abraham Accords. Be careful. Be careful. I know I said this before. I said it 15 minutes ago, but I'm reiterating it. That is what is driving him.
No problem. Thank you, Jacob. And I think it's we're not weary when you say the same thing again. So that's good. We need to hear it again. Jay, I'm going to go to you. What kind of caution can you give politically as well as spiritually to believers who are putting their trust on alliances and people like Trump, who, by the way, has come out and said there'll be no Israel without him? That's quite a statement.
Boy. Well, I would say that we're told in the scriptures that cursed is the man who puts his faith in men, in flesh.
Yes.
I'm sure that we can look at the scriptures and it will tell us that Judah at one point put their faith in Egypt, that Egypt would save them during the time of Sennacherib. They were mocked for doing that. Political alliances and the solutions of mankind, whether we're talking about the New Testament or the Old Testament, Jesus said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. He owns the gold. But everything else belongs to God. So if you're not looking to God for the solution and you're trying to say that this is the person, what's the difference between you and the people who say that Muhammad was the perfect man? It becomes a delusion that a man could save us. That is the spirit of Antichrist. No, the only one we can hope for is Jesus Christ, the man God.
That's right. And all these, I mean, think about this, Jay, too. It's so many things have changed. I remember I was a Christian when Bush was president. I was toward the end of Clinton's last few years. And people always make their prophecies and events as, this is it because he's doing this. And then things change. And now Clinton is, in the dustbin of history. Bush is in the dustbin of history. Seemingly Obama, Biden for sure. And yet all these alliances change and people put their whole stock and into those alliances. Oh, this has got to be it. Prophecy is going to be fulfilling this. And yet nothing happened. Is there a cautionary tale there for Christians who put their whole stock and barrel into what's happening now as that's it, it's over, prophecy is going to be fulfilled because Trump is doing this or Erdogan is doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't pin your hopes on men. I mean, if you look at and you try to look like interpret the events, we're all seeing, as Paul said, through a glass darkly. These events can give us the time of the season. It can't give us this is it. It's not a make or break point. For the people who thought Tony Blair was the solution to the world's problems, maybe 20 years ago, he now looks like Gollum from The Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So,
did you see the picture?
Oh boy.
Yes. He looks like Gollum. My precious.
Yes. Yeah, with all this human rights stuff. And Elon, back to you. I wanted to ask you, what would be for Israel, for believers in Israel, for people that are into, the prophetic purposes of God for Israel, of course, is true. The cautionary tale of putting your hope on Western powers and putting your allegiance on these things and putting your whole weight into them, because eventually Trump's going to go the way of history. And is there a cautionary tale there?
Well, are you talking about for Israeli believers? Yes.
Both.
Well, in the believing community here, you've got a couple of different camps, but the largest camp, sadly, is the New Apostolic Reformation and the hyper charismatics. And from some of the leadership of some of the apostles, these so-called apostles, they were having a different kind of, they were entertaining a different kind of scenario where the church would be triumphant through all these miraculous powers and signs and wonders that they supposedly lay claim to, and would defeat the Antichrist. I mean, effectively. So there definitely is a cautionary tale there about what not to believe. There's a large portion of the body, well, the smaller portion of the body, many of them are pre-tribulationists. So, that's the get out of tribulation free card. So that's another cautionary tale there. Some of them are, what's the word? Amillennials. That's more like the reformed kind of way. So, amongst believers here, I think it's a bit of a mess, actually. There's very few that have a realistic eschatology. So, amongst the general population, that's a bit more difficult because, of course, you've got these sharp, delineation between the right and left here, the seculars
right,
and the religious. Now, the seculars, I'm not really quite sure what their vision of things is going to be. Maybe it's more like along the lines of John Lennon's Imagine, perhaps, for some of them, the ones who read Haaretz, for example, probably. But on the religious side, you've got some of the religious Zionists. One of the things that I thought was particularly telling was from that interview with Yehuda Glick that Yaakov did last year. I mean, and there did not seem to be an awareness, or maybe I should say of the fact that the abomination of desolation is coming, and that while it's they want to rebuild the temple and make it a house of prayer for all nations, and then supposedly the Mashiach will then come, and then there'll be righteousness and peace overflowing, etc. they don't take into account the fact that before that happens, they're basically reading millennial promises in without looking at what comes before. And this is dangerous, I think. I think the nation as a whole is very open to being spiritually deceived in that way. I mean, from our perspective, this is absolutely obvious. You think, oh my goodness, we really are. Excuse me about this. The tripod's just collapsing. We really are open to spiritual deception as a nation here, in a number of different ways. Both the religious, the non-religious, and even the believers out here.
Wow.
Elon, I hate to point it out. Elon, I hate to point it out, and I knew him, and I got along with him, and he did some good work. But what's his name? David Stern did the same kind of thing. He took millennial promises and he applied them to now.
Yes.
Wow.
David Stern actually
and things like this.
Yeah, David Stern, I think I think he was undiscerning on a number of different things.
Yes.
And disturbing some of the stuff that he was. I've got some memories of some things that he was involved in or invited in, or I can't remember all of it now, so I'd have to look it up. But there were some things I found profoundly disturbing.
In his promotion of Messianic Aliyah, he was taking things that were millennial prophecies and saying that they were happening now.
Wow. Is that the guy from the Complete Jewish Bible, Jacob?
Correct. Yes. Okay. Now, he did some good things. He wrote a book called Restoring the Jewishness of the Gospel. He did some good things as well. But when he was off, he was off.
Oh, my. Oh, my. Davey, I want to go to you real quick. Davey, your thoughts on this, and maybe same kind of question, cautionary tale to the West, in this case, Australia. And I know they become vehemently anti-Israel, at least politically, but cautionary tale to the believers in regards to what's going on in Israel and who our allegiance is supposed to be. Obviously, as Christians, is to the Lord. But some of these things have become complicated because they're drawn on emotional and political lines, and people tend to sway one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, we are told not to put our trust in, horses or chariots or anything like that. Our trust needs to be in the Lord. And look, the political climate is incredibly unstable. One good thing here is we are seeing a bit of a bit of a backlash against our current government at the moment. It's kind of like, it's good that everything Elbow's doing at the moment is firing on him.
Good.
The problem here with the church is that the church is by and large asleep. It's kind of like you would probably have 99% of the churches are not teaching the whole counsel of the Word of God. They're only focusing on what it means to the individual, their salvation. There's hardly any talk of repentance or anything like that. There's very little focus on eschatology or anything like that. Most of the church is anti-Israel, replacementist, all on the social justice bandwagon. So that's not helping the situation here any. For the true believers here, we just need to keep in prayer and keep looking to the Lord for our strength. The media here, apart from Sky News, we're thankful we do have Sky News, who does some good, accurate reporting. But if you were just to watch the mainstream media, all you get is Trump is bad, no matter what, But look, even if our leaders are bad or doing things that we don't agree with, we still need to keep them in prayer. It's not necessarily our job to, to become. There's too much. People get worked up too much, and it's kind of like, instead of looking at the big picture. And I think this is the fault with a lot of the churches, where they don't focus on the overall plan of God. You've got to have the end in mind, when you're running a race, when you're running a marathon, one of the things that helps get you through the race is you've got that end in mind. If you haven't got the end in mind, you think, oh, what am I doing?
Aimlessly.
It's aimless, and that's a lot of the problem here. So they get emotionally worked up by the media here, emotionally worked up by this one there, and they're running to and fro and achieving nothing. And I'm sure that the enemy is doing this deliberately to get people worked up. We've had so many times, where we've been close to having a peace deal, and then it falls through. And it's this up and down, up and down. And if you're not grounded in the Word of God, if you're not rooted and grounded in Christ and keeping your eyes on what's ahead, all these people are getting worked up and down emotionally all the time. And the average Aussie, and look, even the average Aussie who's in a church, not that what they're thinking about is, when they notice it, is when they're getting hit in the pocket, like at the supermarket, at the petrol pump, that kind of thing. That's when they really kind of start paying attention. And then what do? They complain instead of praying. They complain. I guess it's human nature. But yeah, for true believers here, look, we do need to pray for our leaders, whether we like them or not. We can. Nothing wrong with praying for bad leadership to be removed, for change or anything like that. It is kind of spectacular here watching watching the events here last week. I don't think I've kept you informed, Marco, but we've had Anthony Albanese had a thing a fundraising thing to come against Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party and all the rest of it, to donate $27. And it kind of went dismally. And so Pauline Hanson did the same thing. She came up with the Fire the Liar campaign, and she's already raised over $2 million. It's kind of like everything Albo's doing is backfiring. So it's kind of fun when you're putting your trust in the Lord. You can kind of sit back and grab the popcorn and enjoy the show to a certain degree, But yeah. It's crazy, Marco. It really is crazy. And I just wish churches would wake up. The churches aren't. Individual believers can. But, I think the churches here are just way too sold out.
Amen. Thank you, Davey. It's a good perspective in terms of what we need to do as Christians. But, we know the end. At the end, despite the isolation, despite the attacks and the hostile nations, Israel will be comprehensively saved. They will be spiritually and physically saved by the Lord, and by returning to the Messiah as he fights for them. We know the nations will be judged. Matthew 25, Joel chapter 3 tells us that. And of course, overall, as Moses told Israel, "Oh, Israel, you're blessed of the Lord, and the Lord is going to be saved." He will save you, a people saved by the Lord. And that's the future for Israel, and the future for anyone who trusts in the Lord Jesus. And so you need to really focus on that, because people get really wrapped up into, this guy said this and this guy said that. And overall, it's really what God says is the most important thing that we can talk about it. And here's one, Jacob, that's interesting, what's going on in Northern Ireland. This hits home close to you. It is burning. Once again, the UK is falling apart, as they say. And of course, this has to do with that video that came out on Monday, when you had a asylum seeker, they call him asylum seeker. He was a Muslim Sudanese invader who was literally trying to cut the head off of a Northern Ireland citizen, gouge his eyes out with a butter knife, tried to decapitate him on the street. And you were aware of that street where it happened. And this is happening now. Video came out, it went viral. People began to protest, riots broke out. Now Belfast is burning. There are people going after migrant homes, and people have had enough. Jacob, can you describe more or less your sentiments on what's going on in Belfast?
First of all, we have to put it in the overall context of Irish and Northern Irish politics. Two events happened that made it possible for this person to get to Belfast. One was Brexit. But when Brexit happened and the Republic of Ireland remained in the EU, but Northern Ireland, being part of Britain, did not. It created a problem for the Good Friday Agreement. That was the second. So they had to have a negotiated arrangement where people could cross the border from the 6 northern counties of Ireland, known as Ulster, and Northern Ireland, into the Republic of Ireland. That's how he was able to do it. So there was a legal mechanism based on political agreement that was necessitated because of the conflict that took place due to Brexit and the Good Friday Agreement, creating this problem of an open border. That was how it happened. There is a growing movement in the Republic of Ireland of people who are fed up with the Islamic immigration that is being fueled by Europe and the EU. A lot of Irish people, just like in England and like in Denmark and Sweden, are feeling betrayed, and with some people in France, with Le Pen, are feeling betrayed by the mainstream political parties. All 3 of them now, by Sinn Féin, which is the party of the Provisional IRA, not to be confused with the real IRA, and Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Fianna Fáil, founded by the Irish-American New Yorker Eamon de Valera, and then the Fine Gael. So they're all pro Islamic immigration. The people in Ireland are raising up against it outside of the mainstream political parties, much the same as is happening in England and in France, with the same kind of reaction. The political establishment is calling the people who support these patriot parties extremists and racists and this kind of thing. They're labeling them as bigots and Islamophobes and things of this nature, while Irish girls are being raped and Irish people are being attacked on both sides of the border. Somebody who was not my favorite of preachers, but he was somebody who told the truth about Islam, came under political prosecution. Reverend Jim McConnell, who's now from a big church called Whitewell. He's no longer with us. Nonetheless, he was prosecuted in Northern Ireland, which is the Bible Belt of Great Britain. Right. This is a problem that's been fermenting for quite a while. What is interesting is it has the potential to unite both Fenians, Irish Republicans, some Fenians,
yes,
and Protestant paramilitaries, radical unionists, the UVF, the UDA. These people are serious warriors. They are serious warriors. And if they team up, they'll wipe the Muslims out. If they ever team up, they will literally just go. What you see coming on the heels of what Northern Ireland called the Troubles, of a whole generation of tit-for-tat killing and bombings. These people are very serious. It's a powder keg anyway. But if you unite the Unionists and the Republicans against the political establishment, this can cause quite an explosion and quite a reaction that may not just be in Northern Ireland. It can shift to the Republic of Ireland and to mainland Great Britain. That can actually happen. And it can probably happen very easily if something doesn't happen. But with Starmer, nothing's going to happen. Now, the other problem is Sinn Féin, the political party of the Provisional IRA. They are pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, pro-Islamic. They play the stupidity card. They treat the Palestinians as if they were the Irish and the Israelis as if they were the British occupiers of Ireland, when in fact the Israelis, the Jews, are the indigenous people of Israel, as the Irish are the indigenous people of Ireland. They've got their boots on the wrong feet, but the people who support Sinn Féin are too stupid to know it. They tend to be less educated working class Catholics who are too stupid to know it. But there's a growing number of Irish nationalists who do know it. Now, what you see with the terrorist bombings carried out by Islam, that is exactly what the IRA did in Oman. And they killed Catholics as well as Protestants. The same as Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, they kill their own people. They kill Arabs as well as Jews. Well, the IRA were the same, and the UVF were the same. They will kill their own people as well as the people they hate. So they, in that sense, are natural bedfellows with each other. The provisional IRA, again, not to be confused with the actual historical IRA of Michael Collins that hasn't existed since the early 20th century. But they claim to be something that they're not. They claim to be the heirs of a heritage that they're not. They tell a half-truth, actually. Those people are pro-Palestinian. But there's a growing faction of Irish nationalists who are not buying it. And that is on both sides of the border. But again, when you see this in light of the history that Ireland has had since the 1960s and that Northern Ireland has had,
yes,
it's very easy to see why these people are so radical and angry. They're predisposed to it anyway. And we finally got a ceasefire. We finally got peace thanks to Good Friday. Because at least we can live, if not in peace, at least in toleration and tolerance with each other. Who are these heathen savages, these radical Muslims, barbarians, to come into Ireland, north or south, and bring their garbage with them? And we have to put up with it because of the Irish government and because of the British government. This violence is the fault of the British government, of the Starmer government.
Yeah, no doubt the policies. I'm going to go to Jay. Jay, you watched the videos with us. Your thoughts and sentiments on what's going on. Some people say civil war's coming. I would say it's already here.
Well, the images that I saw are shocking that it can happen in a Western country. And it also speaks to the nature of how the governments have culled their own populace. I mean, I saw people wrestling the man that was doing this horrible deed, but I didn't see them actually. I mean, I guess it's my American sentiment that man would not be alive if he was doing those acts in the United States. He would not have made it. And I'm just wondering, is this? It looks like it is. It looks like this is like a battle of Lexington and Concord for lack of a better term for Great Britain. Yeah. Will they have that moment of clarity and see that their government is not their friend?
Yes.
That Starmer is a mad King George. The Lord Mayor of London, that redheaded woman, before she opened her mouth, as we were watching the video, I already knew what was going to come out of it.
Belfast. From Belfast.
Yeah, from
Belfast. Yeah, Rosemary Donnelly. Yeah.
Tolerance, multiculturalism. We're stronger with diversity. Well, look what diversity has gotten you. Yes, if you have no cultural roots, if you don't have a society that is based upon your actual traditions, you're going to have these conflicts. You're inviting people to come in that don't share your values. So there will be conflicts. And I don't understand the reasoning of the British people to not see the idea of the replacement theory. Yeah. These people are being brought in because they will be easier to rule over in a totalitarian system that's coming. They're replacing the people that have an idea of freedom with people who have no concept of freedom. They understand, as Orwell put it, the boot on the face.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Davey, I'm going to go to you because, the UK has a plan, and the plan involved getting rid of X. So it cracked down on anyone who's posting, and of course on what they say tech billionaires who are controlling the world. Of course, you're talking about Elon Musk. They blame Tommy Robinson. They blame the politicians who are against Starmer. They blamed everybody and anyone except for themselves. One of the politicians, I wish people didn't watch that video. He says, we wouldn't have this going on. So it's, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But even Australia got involved. And this is why I want to go to you. Public television saying The real problem is the fact that people are watching these things. People are watching the video. That's the real problem. If the people didn't watch it, we had no problems.
Yeah, well, that was the ABC network here who said that, which you kind of expect, government funded, taxpayer funded, unfortunately. I'm on there actually with One Nation. They defund the ABC because they're the most vile, anti-Semitic, hateful, propaganda-filled, arm of a government. But yeah, this is the thing. Look, if they did that, if they banned X and all the rest of it, this stuff would just explode exponentially. Because it wouldn't be getting reported anywhere, at least at the moment where it's getting reported on social media and X and, other social media accounts. It's getting out there what's going on. People are waking up and they're getting outraged that this is allowed to go on. Starmer, Elbow, our governments, they're that evil. They really are that evil. And people need to wake up that they're that evil. It's kind of like they don't care. All they care about is staying in power. It's kind of like, so we can't have people reporting on it. That ABC report was just absolutely vile, that they would do that, They could care less about the guy who, was almost beheaded, lost his eye, and all the rest of it's going to, the poor guy, no. The problem is X, reporting about it, because it's causing racism, oh, boy. The racism card is, kind of like their get out of jail free card now, Yeah. It's absolutely disgusting. I actually thank the Lord that we still have freedom on social media and that to get the news out, because this is the only way things are going to stop. If people find out what's going on and then... Because our governments don't care. We need to hold our governments to account.
Dave, you bring up a interesting point. It took Paul Revere riding on a horse and shouting, "The British are coming," for the entire 13 colonies to rally to fight tyranny. I'm wondering, in the age of social media, it is Paul Revere, but is there anyone actually coming to fight the tyranny?
Yeah, that's a frightening thought, Jay. It really is a frightening thought. I think that's the thing now. Our media's just got everybody drugged into kind of, mind-numbing, oblivion kind of thing, They're just kind of like so desensitized, and unless something actually impacts them, they never wake up. And even then, you see people, they still become apologists for the terrorists. I don't get it. They're given over. It's spiritual blindness. It's the only way you can put it down to.
Correct.
Absolutely spiritual blindness. And it's frightening in this age because the spiritual blindness is leading up to something that is truly sinister.
Oh boy, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then Jacob, go ahead, David.
Oh no, I was just saying, and it's coming fast. That's the thing too.
Oh yeah, amen to that. Jacob, just your final thoughts on what's going on in Northern Ireland. A nation is a borders. It's its borders. It's its people. It's its culture. Its language. Northern Ireland, for this is their own terms. This is the people there. We don't have our language. We lost it to the British. We lost it to the English. The whole James Joyce famous quote, the English, they stopped us from speaking Gaelic. They gave us their language, but we showed them how to use it. So there's that rift between English and the Irish culture. We have no culture. We have no border. Northern Ireland says we have no border because of the Starmer policies that anyone can come in through the CTA, which is basically an border. There is, going back to the border wars, that was established in 1921. What's the future for Northern Ireland except civil war? Or do you see a Christian response to this? When the time comes for revival to happen, some people are saying that this is a time for revival. Your thoughts on it?
There is a growth in the number of Roman Catholics being saved. Unfortunately, most of the churches in the Republic of Ireland, Southern Ireland, are not good churches. They're New Apostolic Reformation, things of that nature. They're not good churches. So you have converts, but not many disciples. That is one major problem in Ireland. While Protestantism, even traditional evangelical Protestantism, which was based in Northern Ireland, is declining and has declined significantly in the last 20 to 25 years. So spiritually, Ireland, on both the Catholic side and the Protestant side, has deteriorated. Ireland was a country that produced more Roman Catholic clergy than it needed for its own churches and so forth. Not anymore. The Roman Catholic Church and clergy and bishops hierarchy have been so discredited because of the widespread pedophilia in the Roman Catholic Church. So there's a spiritual vacuum. Cults are growing, New Age is growing, and a kind of evangelicism is growing, but it's very, very flaky. Now, what do I see happening politically? Because of the higher birth rate among Catholics, even if they're non-practicing Catholics, the higher birth rate is going to eventually force a political reunion of Ireland simply by demographic means. That process is already well underway. And it's one of the reasons the Protestants went with the Good Friday Agreement. They were trying to keep something, but the demographics have gone against them. So simply based on the political realities dictated by population, a reunification of Ireland is on the cards. People who supported
I was just going to ask you.
They began to realize we're going to win this by having a larger birth rate. See what I'm saying? That was it. Now, to make matters even more hideous, Ireland tried to revive Gaelic. There are certain little patches of Ireland where they're called Gaeltachts, where people actually do speak Irish Gaelic, but not many. Most people can only speak a little bit or read it for exams in school. Most of them don't speak it. They're like those pochos in the United States. Most of them don't speak it. Their grandparents did or something, but they don't speak it. The Israelis revived their ancient language successfully, Hebrew. Hebrew was simply a liturgical language. Diasporic Jews spoke Ladino or Yiddish or Arabic. The Israelis revived their language. Also, both the Irish and the Israelis fought the British for their independence. Okay, that was another thing. They both fought. Yes, they both fought for their independence. There's so much what should be logical common ground between Zionism and Irish republicanism. There should be logical common ground, but there isn't. The only thing they can save, Ireland even has a law of return where people who have Irish grandparents, like my mother, could have an Irish passport. You know what I mean? They have a return like Israel. There's so much common between Ireland and Israel. You'd think that the Irish people would recognize it. But instead, they go with the colonialists. They're calling the indigenous people the colonizers. This is the stupidity. This is the stupidity of the Irish left and the people who believe the nonsense of the mainstream parties. I just hope more people continue to wake up and realize the Islamic threat for what it is.
You see these the Celtic Football Club. When people are there, the fans, and they're waving Palestinian flags or waving terrorist flags. And these are not done by either migrants or people with blue hair or pink hair. Normal looking Irish people are waving Gaza, pro-Palestinian, and because most Irish people are still
just like the university students in the United States. They're stupid people. Homosexuals, gays for Palestine. How stupid can you get?
Yeah.
People
What a
sign their own
challenge.
death warrant.
Yeah, what a challenge, isn't it? And we do need to pray for obviously Memorial has a Northern Ireland branch, and
Yes.
the Lord will work through the believers there and bring the peace that the gospel can bring through Jesus Christ. So the future
I
looks
have
rough,
friends. There are
Jacob.
people who are my personal friends who were in the Maze prison at Long Kesh. That was the main internment prison for dangerous terrorists. I know, I'll just give the first thing. I got a Protestant terrorist friend who got saved named Packy. That was his name, Packy, isn't Packy. And I had an Irish guy named Scatter. I won't give the surnames. He had 2 machine guns underneath the trench coat, and he'd go up to a British Army position and pull it. These people are crazy. Now, a couple of them have got saved, but these people are really dangerous. What you see in Belfast doesn't surprise me one bit. I know what these people are and what they'll do.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess the long-term question is what's going to happen with with Brexit, what's going to happen with the UK relationships. Jacob, you're bringing up what's going on with the police in the UK. I think it's worth mentioning of that, which are bringing up Muslims to be promoted, to be given positions, and the Henry Novak issue that happened in the UK. We talked about that last week. All that needs to be compiled into what's going on there.
It's not only that, it's affirmative action for the promotion of ethnic and religious minorities. They're promoting less qualified Muslims over English people to the higher ranks of the police. We had one policeman named Luke Salmon. He was at a mandatory diversity training course for policemen, and he simply questioned certain things about Islam, and he was fired for even asking the question by the corrupt British government. We have an organization of Muslim policemen who have called Zionism hatred. It should be a hate crime. And they are saying that the IDF, the Israeli military, need to be designated as a terrorist organization by British law. Yeah. These are Muslim cops. Now, when you see the rising anti-Semitism and violence against Jews in London and Manchester, you're going to rely on Muslim cops or a Muslim mayor of London to protect you. That's why you're seeing an increase in Aliyah to Israel from Britain among British Jews.
Just wondering when
and Khan are on the side of the bad guys. They're anti-British. They are pro-Islamist.
Just wondering when they're going to ask for protection money to make sure nothing happens to your business from the other side of their organization.
Well, they already have vigilante groups who are doing that, saying Muslims, you have no right to be here. They beat up a D-Day World War II British veteran, really beat him up seriously and hurt the old man for walking in a Muslim neighborhood in Birmingham. This is what they are. And then the Stormers okay with it. It seems to be. They'll give them the visa.
It would be a shame.
Jacob, have you reached a tipping point, or have we reached a tipping point, or is there more to come?
What troubles me is what I saw happening in Britain 10, 12, 15 years ago is now coming to America. These stupid people of New Jersey have nominated to be their congressional candidate. I think it's the 12th district of New Jersey for Congress. This Adam Hamaday, he was involved with the blind sheikh responsible for the attack on the World Trade Center in 1993, the first World Trade Center attack. And this stupid left-wing Democrats of New Jersey, this is the man they want to put in Congress. Plattner in Maine is not the only Nazi who the left is supporting.
No. Yeah, you bring up Plattner because I know that he's getting a lot of support, and the Totenkopf, which is the tattoo that he has, he's changed his story so many times. It's laughable. Anybody believes him anymore. I didn't know, I did know, and I was bragging about it, and then he didn't brag about it, and he got it in innocence. He loves women. He doesn't care if he has all these dates. All these girlfriends have come out and said that he was an abusive man. And this is who they're going with. This is bizarre.
These are the same women were the same women who were into the Me Too thing and trying to get disqualified Kavanaugh from becoming a Supreme Court justice based on those same kind of allegations and charges. Whereas in Kavanaugh's case was not even true.
Maybe he's taking a page out of Elbow's book, and he's not lying. He's just changed his position.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about
the right letter by his name.
Yeah, that's true. Adam Hamaway, right? Hamaway.
That's right.
The New Jersey primary, 112th congressional district. So, this is 12th congressional district. Sorry. These are the candidates.
Muslims, one of the disguises of radical Muslims in the West is people from the medical profession. Don't forget, what was his name?
Yes.
Bin Laden's second in command was a medical doctor. That movie with Sally Fields, Not Without My Daughter, true story. That guy was a physician.
True story.
The people who tried to blow up Glasgow Airport in Scotland, these Muslim terrorists, every one of them was a physician. Every one of them was a medical doctor. This other pro-terrorist guy would deny it, but he's a friend of radical Islam in the Midwest, again, a physician. And so is this horrible man in New Jersey. They use the medical profession to get visas. That is part of their strategy. I don't believe Muslim physicians should be allowed to be given visas to enter the United States or Western countries to practice medicine.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned, Jacob, but remember Nidal Hassan, the guy that shot up Fort Hood? He was a physician too.
Yes, he's a physician as well. Correct. Another example. A major in the U.S. Army. They use the medical profession because they think it's going to help them get a visa and give them credibility and prove that they're civilized, when in fact they're nothing but barbarians with an education.
Jacob, to switch gears, just to get into more news about the violence and the war that's seemingly brewing throughout the world. And you mentioned about coming here to the States, and you're right about the Muslim invasion. But what about this race war that is being stoked up by the years of Obama, the years of Biden? Now we have the case of Carmelo Anthony killing Austin Metcalf. Carmelo Anthony is black. Austin Metcalf is white. They were both in a track and field competition in April of 2025. Eric Metcalf, or Austin Metcalf, was one school, and then Carmelo Anthony is from another school. Apparently, Carmelo Anthony wanted to go inside the tent because it was raining of this other school, and he was told not to come in. He was told, go get your own tent and things like that. Well, he took it as an offense. He was offended, pulled out a knife, and by the agreement of every eyewitness, elevated and threatened the people under the tent. Austin Metcalf told him he didn't want to fight him at a track event in which Carmelo Anthony, this is by his own admission and by eyewitnesses, it was a mistake. He pulled out he got the knife out and plunged it into Austin Metcalf's chest. He died, punctured his heart. He died. Carmelo Anthony says it was self-defense, and they tried to get this idea that they wrestled, and even Austin Metcalf plunged it into his own heart because they were wrestling. And the case went on. He was convicted this past week, 35 years in prison. He could have gotten 99, 35 years. It has unleashed potentially a race war in which the black community is saying it doesn't matter because, on one hand, he had it coming. They don't know what it's like to be black. If Austin Metcalf, kind of knew what kind of life we live here in the States with all this race oppression, you got congresswomen like Crockett coming out and saying, black women, they live under this pressure all the time, especially if you have boys. It is becoming a rapid, elevated situation in which, obviously, they're appealing to case. I don't know what is going to happen afterwards. But Jacob, your thought? This is fomenting.
Race is not a defense. You have a criminal like George Floyd, and I don't agree with what the policeman did, but he died not of asphyxiation. He died of fentanyl. a criminal like Floyd who pulled a gun on a pregnant woman, he becomes a martyr just because he's black, even though he committed a crime. Yeah. Michael Brown in Ferguson, he attacked a cop and went for the cop's gun after he robbed a store that belonged to an little Asian guy who he assaulted. Oh, he's the victim. Just because he's black, he's the victim. They did the same thing with so-called Trayvon Martin. It's a racial attack. Yeah. The guy who killed him and had a trial that he did in self-defense was found innocent, was not a Caucasian. He was a Hispanic. But it becomes a race thing. Well, it's the same thing. They racialize everything. Race becomes a defense in the thinking of the political left wing of the black community. Now, there are obviously black people who see through this. They know it's all what it is, that it's black fatigue. They know that. They know that these people are bad people who are holding the black community back and holding black people down. They know there are blacks who know that. But you see the people who Booker T. Washington warned about, the racocrats, the black activist parasites who make their living in the race industry, people like Sharpton and other people like this and Crocker. They use it to ingratiate themselves and as a key to get money and power. That colors woman again from Black Lives Matter with the 4 mansions, and oh boy, these people.
Patrice Cullors,
Patrice Cullors. They're just, she lives at Topanga Canyon. These people just lie. They said an all-white jury. No. Caucasians are the minority on the jury. Most of the jury was Hispanic and Asian and one Arabic woman, not white. The Caucasians were the minority. It was not an all-white jury. They just lie, and they think they have a right to lie. All they see is black and white. They don't see truth. The only reason some black people were disqualified from the jury is they basically said that they're going to find the guy innocent based on his skin color, not based on the facts. None of these people are talking about the facts. There was one witness for the defense, one witness who, under cross-examination, admitted that it was a murder.
Yeah.
They don't care about the facts, and they lie that it was an all-white jury, and they're trying to make it Jim Crow and the 1940s American South or something. It's absolutely disgusting. This guy, I disagree with the sentence. The guy should have got life, no parole, in my opinion. But
no, you're right. Jay, I'm going to go to you. This is our former state of Texas, and this is in Frisco, Collin County. It's insane. The people that are protesting that are on Carmelo Anthony's side, and I'm going to give you a quote. He says, "We're going to stand by ours regardless. We're going to stand by ours regardless." And it's creating this new trend where I guess black people are coming up to white people asking if they ever served on a jury and then attacking them. These are being filmed all over the United States, from Florida to Texas. It is creating a race war, which is what they want, which is what the establishment wants. Jasmine Crockett is using that, fomenting that. Representative Summer Lee from Pennsylvania says we need reparations and this will all go away. Is that a threat? And a doctor from Howard University, Dr. Stacy Patton, I'm probably sure she's got her degree in some kind of gender studies or something like that, wrote an article saying that, it was probably the white kid's fault because of the way he was raised. How can we make sense of this, Jay?
Well, let's start by taking it to the logical conclusion of their own intellect. If you applied those same fundamental theories to, say, the Native American population, say to the Hispanic population, to the Jewish population and the Muslim population, then basically they can't be convicted of any crime because they've had horrible things done to them. Therefore, they don't know what it is to be a Native American in the United States, which tried to take all the land and take their lives. It's a nonsensical argument. And I have to ask the question, What is exactly the difference between, say, the Klan of the 1960s in their tactics and in their political discourse to Black people who think that it's all right to go up and slap a white man? What's the difference? Why not just get a bunch of hoods and put it on your own heads and go and racially go against people of a different race? That's how nonsensical it's turned, to the point where they are espousing the same bigoted language of the people who want to oppress them.
Yes. You're absolutely. Let me give you one quote from this doctor, Stacy Pat. Like I said, I don't know what her degree is in. Dear Mr. Metcalf, talking to the kid, his father, Jeff Metcalf. Your son is dead because you failed to teach him that Black boys have boundaries. Basically, I don't know what that means exactly, but I can guess that you just know that you just don't go up to a Black person and have any, because you're going to have consequences. This is to a grieving father. This happened to your son because you didn't teach your sons to have boundaries. Are they trying to elevate this before a midterm, Jay, like a George Floyd riot?
I think they're definitely going to try to use it to racially shepherd people to their vote. But worse than that, understand there's a segment of people in the United States that are watching these tactics, seeing how effective they are, and they will use the same tactics to the detriment of African Americans. And I'm speaking of the idea of the victim mentality that Islam will do against a largely secular and Christian culture in the United States, in Western Europe. They're going to use the same victim mentality. Well, you don't know what it is to be a Muslim inside of a Western European democracy. Therefore, they should know that it's unacceptable to even challenge us or talk about. I mean, look at Charlie Hebdo, a little cartoon, a little bit of satire. Yeah. Boom.
Yeah, you don't know what it's like to be a Christian in a Muslim country. Go ask the Christians in northern Nigeria.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy of it is unbelievable.
Well, just like in the UK, right? The dogs, there's certain sections that they want no dogs, and they want to outlaw dogs because Muslims are, you don't know what it's like to be a Muslim. We don't like dogs, so stop using dogs. And people accept it.
I'd rather have a dog as a neighbor than a Muslim, but that's me.
Goodness. So, Jacob, are we heading toward this civil war? I mean, you see that we're getting
what
so used to
what they would like to see. Again, it's the Soros mentality of the people who follow Soros's philosophy, and that other guy from what's his name from China, what's his name, Solomon, whatever his name is. These people who fund the left. You had riots.
Yes.
After George Floyd. And in the West Coast, in Seattle and in the state of Washington, and in Oregon and in the city of Portland, the mayors and governors let those riots go on week after week after week. They would not let the police put the end to them because they wanted to say the only way to stop these riots is vote Donald Trump out of office. The Democratic Party will use that strategy. That is how low and treacherous and corrupt the Democratic Party is.
Is society getting used to violence to the point, Jacob, where these killings happen and you just take it? I mean, you see what happened at the National Mall with 8647 being put on the grass, the attempts against Trump, and you just have to take it. So this is what society is becoming, the days of Noah.
Yes.
A violent society. Truly insane people are governing us. So, Jacob, I'm going to turn it over to you in conclusion to the program today. Special message to somebody you watched online and videos, and you would disagree with them from Iowa, Bill Lockwood. I'll turn it over to you.
Bill Lockwood, if you're listening or your people are, they show you this. Jesus warned us there'd be false prophets, false teachers, deceivers coming in the last days with the aim of deceiving the elect. the aim of deceiving Christians. You are one of the people Jesus warned us about. Now, there's a number of theological issues where you're wrong, but your attacks on Zionism and representing that or misrepresenting that as some kind of a biblical position demonstrates to me that you're not only a disingenuous person, you're also a scripturally ignorant one. I would like to publicly challenge you to debate me on neutral turf at a neutral venue in front of a video camera. We will live stream it. I will debate you on the issue of is Zionism biblical or not biblical. I'd like to say that I consider you to be a religious liar, a bigot, and frankly, a theological ignoramus. Prove me wrong. Meet me in front of a camera. I doubt you will, because I think you're also a coward, but I hope you will. Come debate me, defend yourself, and defend your position. I'm calling you publicly a false teacher and a deceiver of the brethren.
All right, Bill Lockwood. Davey, what's the ministry called? Do you remember what it's called? I know he's on YouTube, and I know he's from Iowa.
I did look it up before, but I think I closed the tab. Let me find it again.
Yeah, and you find teachers like this now more and more.
Bill, was the Church of Christ. Where was it again?
Say it again, Davey.
It's the Church of Christ. I know that much. Iowa Park Church of Christ.
Iowa Park Church of Christ. All right. Well, there it is. There it is.
He may be a Campbellite. His Church of Christ, he may be a Campbellite. He may believe in baptism or regeneration. So he has a false gospel anyway.
Yeah.
He's not a true believer.
That's
quite possibly.
That's a possibility. Yeah, possibility. So in light of all the other pastors that have come out recently, like Joel Webbin and all these other teachers online, following an algorithm, or perhaps some of them even getting paid to be anti-Semitic and anti-Israel and anti-Jew, following along with that. And I remember Steve Anderson from Arizona, very vehemently anti-Israel and very vociferously against Israel. And he became the poster boy for a while. Now you see the fruit coming to play. So thank you, Jacob. We're going to go to backstage. We got questions. Jacob's got answers through the scriptures. So let's get to it.
One more thing, Marco. This is important. One more thing.
Oh,
on behalf of myself and all at Moriel, on behalf of myself and all at Moriel, we express our most sincere condolences to the family of our friend and brother from Tempe, Arizona, Tri-Cities Calvary Chapel, Pastor John Higgins. He was a friend, he was a brother, he was a man who stood for truth and integrity. We give our condolences to his dear wife, to his son, Seth, to his other relatives, and to Devin, his grandson. God bless that family. John is with the Lord, waiting us in glory. Well done, good and faithful servant. Our sincere condolences from all of us at Moriel. If I was in the States, I'd come to the memorial service, but I'm in Britain at the moment on my way to Israel. Otherwise, I would be there. But I will be watching online, hopefully. Thank you so much, Lord Jesus, for the blessings you've given us through Pastor John Higgins, who's now with you in glory.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. God bless you guys. And we'll see you on backstage. All right. Welcome to Backstage, the part of the episode in which Jacob answers difficult questions. And we stand here and help. And we got Elon, we got Jay, we got Davey. So thank you guys for being up with us. Last few questions. We actually got a lot today. So we'll go through, as many as we can. And let Jacob go to bed eventually, as well as Elon. Jacob Prasch, I'd like to hear your reply on what the scripture tell us. It is God who changes times and epochs. He brings down king and establishes kings. With the rise of King Charles and the move not only the Vatican plus Trump's Abraham Accords and the Abrahamic family of faith, along with pushing Chrislam, are you seeing the stage being set for Daniel's fourth beast and the woman who will ride it and combine this with the view of understanding Babylon and mystery Babylon? Great approaching.
Let's keep it focused. God is the God of history. He exercises lordship over history. Continuous with that, and within that, he determines who's going to come to political national power and leadership. Even bad people come to power. It's only because he allows it. So God has the lordship of history. Jesus had 3.5 years of public ministry. Satan is going to demand equal time. Within certain parameters and for a certain period of time, 3.5 years, Satan will exercise the lordship over history and human government. Jesus had 3.5 years, the devil will demand 3.5 years. Christ had 3.5 years, Antichrist will have 3.5 years. Within certain parameters, for a fixed period of time, the lordship of history and the control of human government will go into the hands of Satan through the operations of the Antichrist and false prophet. This will take place during the final 7 years of history, particularly the second half of Daniel's 70th week, is when this will happen full-blown, in a full-blown sense.
Thank you, Jacob.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Jacob. Let's go to number 2. Is it wrong, Jacob, for a church to sing songs before the sermon from a secular artist or Bethel or Hillsong if the songs have biblical lyrics? Not all Bethel and Hillsongs have an unbiblical lyric.
Many of the songs of Hillsong and Bethel and the Vineyard have unbiblical lyrics. So one of the things I would look at is the lyrics themselves, but also the composer, the theology of the composer. They may be saying things that are biblically true, but mean something different by the same terminology. Like when these people who are given into that kind of over-realized eschatology or things of this nature, when they use terms like kingdom and victory and power, they very often mean something different than the scripture does. So even though the lyrics themselves may be scriptural, in their understanding and in their composition of those lyrics, they may mean something very different than the Bible does. So I would tend to warn people to avoid such compositions and hymn writers. I would avoid people to keep away from things like Hillsong, apart from the fact that it's a business, not a ministry. And people who are in it told me that. That is my personal advice concerning it. Now, can you read the question again, Marco?
Yeah, is it wrong for a church to sing songs before the sermon from a secular artist?
Okay, Paul quoted a pagan poet, didn't he? We have to be careful because Paul in Corinthians did quote a pagan poet, but not in a worship context, in an apologetics context. God gave us a book of hymns called Psalms.
Yeah.
Biblical model of worship in singing will follow the Psalms. That is the divinely ordained, the divinely given, the divinely inspired body of lyrics for singing and worship. They have to follow the pattern of Psalms. And how many do that? Now you have another problem. Here is the problem. It's not a question only of taking secular words and making them Christian, but there are people who've taken Christian words and made them secular. For instance, in modern Israel, in modern Israeli music, they will often sing songs just as popular entertainment using biblical terminology. Alleluia, kol goyim. But they will not be singing it to worship Yahweh. They'll just be singing it as a song. Black American hymns began as worship music, but we don't think of the saints come marching in, or them bones, them dry bones, or lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Now, the people who wrote those hymns meant them as worship. The words of all of those black spirituals came straight from the scripture, but they've been turned into just secular music. So it works both ways. there's a problem when you have people trying to Christianize or biblicize secular lyrics, but there's also a problem of people taking biblical lyrics and turning them into just secular songs, like when the saints come marching in. The words are perfectly biblical, but very few people who sing that actually mean what the scriptures mean from the book of Revelation and the book of Nehemiah.
Very nice. Thank you, Jacob. And yeah, and I think you have a video on that. Davey, remind me, 2 Samuel 6, is that what it's called? In which Jacob deals with music in the church from 2 Samuel. I think that's what it's called, 2 Samuel 6. I don't think we ever gave it a title.
2 Samuel 5 and 6, yeah.
Yeah, I know he's got one called God's Will versus Man's Opinion too, where you deal with the subject too.
It's that one.
Yes, awesome.
But it comes from 2 Samuel.
We'll post that as a Throwback Tuesday too.
Okay.
I'll put that up this week. Yep.
Jacob Prasch, could Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, be a candidate for the Antichrist?
No, almost certainly not. But do not trust anything from Pakistan. They will play all sides. They hid bin Laden. They would take arms and support from the Americans and arm the Mujahideen. During the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, they'll go with the Americans. Then they'll go with the Taliban. They'll go with wherever their own interest lies. They will go with two rivals at the same time. Pakistan is never to be trusted. It might have been better. She was not very great theologically or anything. She was a Muslim woman. But Benazir Bhutto, her father was no good. She was more reasonable, more westernized, and even more friendly to Israel. However, after her, Pakistan just went down the tubes. You cannot trust any of them. But no, I do not believe he's a candidate for the Antichrist, no.
All right, very good. And by the way, we're going to take the question about Malachi 2:15, and our brother Elon will make a special video with that because it's a more complex answer that we can give here in such a short period of time. So we appreciate the question, and we will make a short video on that. So stay tuned when Elon comes out with it. So thank you, Elon, for well, you sort of volunteered, but we kind of asked you for it, so that would work. Jacob Prasch, I've seen different people say globalists, Britain, King Charles is meddling behind the curtains to keep chaos going, casting blame on others so Britain can become the world power again. Your thoughts?
Prince Charles would not have the ability to play political poker on that level. That's to begin with. And given the economic state of Britain, that's not a very viable scenario to propose at the present time. Britain's power has been through the special relationship with the United States. After the empire declined, there was the Commonwealth residually, but then the British Commonwealth just became the Commonwealth. Britain continued to have power and influence in the world through the Five Eyes, through its strategic relationship with the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, Britain being the fifth partner. In global intelligence and reconnaissance. Its partnership with the United States, essentially, and the other English-speaking democracies. Secondly was the City of London. The City of London was the brokerage house for international offshore banking. All these things like the Cayman Islands and other places like this, Bermuda and so forth, Gibraltar, the Channel Islands, all of this offshore banking was coordinated through London. That was the second basis to British power. The City of London. Both of them are not doing very well at the moment. And the special relationship with the United States is now in the danger of disintegrating, particularly under the Starmer government. So, no, I don't think it is a viable proposition at the present time. I don't. We also have to remember something else. Apart from England, and not even all of England, apart from England, the British Isles were never part of the Roman Empire. Scotland wasn't. Ireland, which they called Hibernia, wasn't. Cornwall wasn't. The southwest of England wasn't. Even all of England was not part of the Roman Empire or a reconfederated Roman Empire. So I don't really see that happening. I would associate the Antichrist more with the Middle East and with continental Europe than I would with Britain. So no. And Prince Charles is not a very dynamic figure.
Yeah, I think it's just referring to can Britain become a power again?
Britain is one of the main 7 economies in the world, but it is definitely in decline, as is Japan and Germany.
Yeah. Jacob Prasch, would you be able to explain why in 1 Samuel it says David killed Goliath, but in 2 Samuel it says Elhanan killed Goliath? Is Elhanan another name for David?
No, Elhanan is not another name for David. No. But El is the name for God. Okay. So is a name for God. Can you read give me the passage again?
Yeah, this sounds familiar. Did we answer this already before? Many weeks back. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, it says Goliath was killed by David.
Right.
Which you've taught on, plenty of times, and we know the story. But in 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 19, it says Elhanan killed Goliath. I guess the question should be, explain the discrepancy. It sounds familiar, Davey, that we answered this already, but it may be just me. Yeah.
Okay. The usual way people look at this, and the way I've thought of it, Goliath had a brother, remember, with the 6 fingers and the 6 toes? So they reconcile it by looking at it from First Chronicles. I think it's First Chronicles 20. That Elhanan killed Lami, the brother of Goliath. In the earlier Hebrew manuscripts, there may have been a transcription issue, not necessarily an error, but it's speaking about the brother of Goliath as opposed to Goliath himself. David killed Goliath, but Elhanan killed Goliath's brother. That is the way it's usually thought about.
Very good. Elon, any thoughts on that particular question? I think you were on last time we addressed this question. Do you remember?
I think actually it's a textual criticism issue. In other words, it's a transmission of the text issue where a word has probably dropped out. It's known that there are some problems with in parts of the text of of Samuel with there is some transmission errors in Samuel's text of Samuel in the Masoretic text. There are.
Yes.
It's known.
Yes. That is known.
That's the difference between. I think that's Yaakov's put his finger on it. One of the Chronicles actually is more corrects this.
Gotcha. Elon, this is for you. Elon, do you believe the impending elections that Bibi could be driven to doing something more radical or drastic to maintain power, such as signing a treaty?
I don't think. I think if a treaty with, you mean with Iran or something?
It doesn't say. It doesn't say.
So that's really rather an open-ended question then. I can't see that if Iran is intended in this, I cannot see that going down very well with the electorate. That would be a losing electoral strategy, to be honest. Any kind of compromise with Hezbollah, Hamas, the Iranian regime would go down like a lead balloon. The coalition would collapse if he did that, I think, just for a start. I mean, because when you think his coalition partners you've got Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben-Gvir, they would never tolerate that.
Very good insight. Thank you, Elon. Jacob Prasch, Genesis 6:2 says the fallen angels took wives. The same word is used when Enoch was taken by God. Therefore, did the fallen angels abduct women like a counterfeit of the rapture?
No, but it's a very general term, okay?
Yeah.
Even I don't know if it's l'kachat what it is, but it's a general term. It could be used in the sense of taken away or taken up, but only in conjunction with another word. It just means take. The Nephilim did have sexual relations. They left their rightful abode. Paul says we can entertain angels unaware. Demons are fallen angels. Nephilim were demonic beings, and they procreated with human women. That is essentially what it means. It's not to do with Enoch. Now, here is the what it does have to do with Enoch, okay? God took Enoch up, okay? God took Enoch up to himself. The Nephilim took the women down. The Nephilim means to come down, to fall down, the fallen ones.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. So there is a connection, but not directly
There's
from
a contrast. There's not a connection, but a contrast.
Very nice. Jacob, I would love to see a debate between a memorial panel and pre-tribulational panel. Is this something that could happen this year? Nothing beats a good debate.
Thomas Heiss was supposed to debate me some years ago, and then he said his board told him to not do it, so it was canceled. And it's nothing like that has happened since, but other people have already had debates, like Alan Kirshner and so forth, and I don't know what would be reinventing the wheel, probably more or less. These things have already been debated.
I think if there was a specific issue within pre-tribulational, whether it is the word
my standing offer to debate Andy Wood is still there. Yes. I've put the fleece out. I've said I would debate him before, and my offer still stands to debate Andy Wood, yes.
All right, James. Andy, you're on the clock. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
I mean, if we want to, I definitely could arrange a debate on a panel on TikTok against the pre-tribs. That's very easy to coordinate, but we would need to
get them to agree to do it. To get them to agree to do it. Something else.
Jacob, I can find people to do it on TikTok. That's not a problem.
Jacob, I think what he means is these are not pastors or scholars or anything. I think it's just a panel of people.
If Moriel does it, we want to come up in opposition to theologians, scholars, pastors, Christian authors, people who represent that point of view from the perspective of leadership.
I could find pastors. That would be willing to do it.
Yeah.
Fair.
I'm interested in debating Andy Wood. That's who I'm interested in debating.
I'd love for you to debate Andy Wood. What did you say, Elon?
Are we talking here a proper academic kind of style, moderated debate, though, of course?
Yes.
Not just the free-for-all, yeah.
That could be arranged, too.
All right. Next question. Davey, how is that legislation banning social media for kids 18 and under working out in Australia? Do you know?
Yeah, well, it's been in the news again this week because it's not working. There was a study done. Over 70% of kids under the age of 16, they're still using at least one social media platform. So, of course, we had the fear-mongering again as late as last night on the news. I think it was designed to fail because this way they can bring in, the digital ID. I'm sure it was just a Trojan horse to bring in that. I think it was meant to fail. But yeah, a lot of talk at the moment that we need to do something more. And they're talking about, okay, they're going to hold the platforms responsible. So it was another excuse to gang up on X. It's interesting. They always pick out X, It's kind of like, it's always X, Interesting.
Problem, Problem solution, right? That's what they bring. Problem solution, and a disaster, of course, and a disaster. So thank you, Davey. Jacob, does the majestic figure in Daniel 10 represent the pre-incarnate Christ or a powerful angelic being? How do you weigh the evidence from the text?
Daniel 10 is an angelic being.
All right. That's an angel. All right. Heard it from Jacob. Very good. Jacob, is it biblically appropriate for a Christian to take the Lord's Supper at home, or should it always be observed corporately with other believers?
It's a function of the body. It's something done in a meeting. It's not something to be done in isolation. Now, if somebody was sick and they couldn't get to church, or they were hospitalized, right, or something like that, and they went to a church service online, and the church was taking the Lord's Supper, and they did it in that context, I would not have a problem with it due to the circumstances. But normally it is something that should take place within fellowship, within the assembling together.
Okay. Amen. I agree. Jacob, could Islam become the one world religion?
No.
All right. Wondering if Jacob is happy his city, New York, and the New York Knicks are close to winning the NBA title.
They're not going to win it now. I would have been happy if they did, but it's not going to happen now. So,
you don't think they're going to win?
No. They lost that game. They lost that game that Donald Trump was at. I don't think.
No,
I don't.
They won.
Say it again. There was a game that the Knicks lost, and there was a riot because of it.
No, they won. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They won the game. They were down 29 points. They were down 29 points, and they came back and won it in the last second.
Then why was the riot about?
Because they won.
Because they won.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Just like what happened in France. This is what happened in France when PSG won. France and Paris was.
Okay.
They went
if
on a
I
rock.
was in the United States, I'd be watching the game. But you have to stay up so late here in Britain to watch those games because of the time difference. Forget about it. I remember staying up to watch Michael Jordan when he played for the Bulls, and I was exhausted the next day. You know, watching American sports is almost impossible from this side of the Atlantic. Yeah. I thought that the Knicks lost the game, so I lost interest.
106 to 107.
Yeah, they were buried, and they came back.
That's how close it was.
So Jacob, back to the question: are you happy your hometown Knicks may win the title?
Well, obviously, I want them. I don't like the Lakers. I want the Knicks to win. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah,
all right.
But why would people blame Donald Trump? There's people who actually blame Donald Trump for a loss.
Because they were down 29 points and they were blaming that Trump was there. And so they, you know what? Yeah. And they did lose the previous game, but they won this one. So maybe he thought he was bad.
I was thinking of the previous game. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking of the wrong game. Okay.
Jacob Prasch, in biblical thought, a name means more than just a name as we think of it. It represents character, nature, attributes. The mark of the beast has to do with the name of the beast of the person of his name. Is this likewise speaking of character, nature, and attributes?
Yes, but from the point of view of isopsophy or gematria, okay? It has to do not with the name itself, but the number of the name. It almost certainly has to do with isopsophy or gematria. In my book, Shadows of the Beast, there's a whole section or even almost a chapter dealing with this issue where I explain the gematria and isopsophy of the name. Okay.
Very nice. People need to read that book. And
one possibility is that the Antichrist will be named Soter. But read the book.
Soter, salvation. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Very good. I'll close out there. Jacob, let's close this out. You can close this out on words of encouragement where we need to focus on with all that's going on, all the violence, Belfast, New York, as you mentioned, Texas, as you mentioned, and all the things going on in the world, possibly Islamabad, emphasize the bad, agreement. Let us know what we should focus on this week.
You'll be hearing of wars and rumors of wars, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. As we pointed out a number of times, nation is ethnos, or goyim, ethnic nations. Kingdom is basileia in Greek or malchut in Hebrew. The political struggles will ride on the back of ethnic or racial struggles. That is what we see happening. In Belfast, that's what we see happening. In the Middle East, it's what we see happening. And it's exactly what Jesus said was going to happen. We have a blueprint. We have a roadmap. We have an explanation of not only what's happening, but why it's happening and how it's going to end, where it's all going to take us. If there was a time to study biblical prophecy, that time is now. We can all lift up our head despite these circumstances, and we can all say the same thing. Mar Anatah, Maranatha, come quickly, Lord Jesus. He is coming. The blessed hope, that is our encouragement, despite the circumstances of the world, of the church, of our personal lives. He is coming, and he's coming soon.
Hallelujah. Amen. Well, God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week in the Lord. Preach Christ.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan, to India to Africa, and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.